All right. So the groups have got just finished completing their. You guys got done completing your cities that you were assigned. You graphed the maximum minimums. Then you gave your instructions to another group, which validated them. And I think everybody's validated, right? Yep. So now here's what we're going to do. Is what you are going to do as an entire group is to put all this information together and present it to me on Monday. Okay? Now, as I've mentioned before, we do this kind of wisdom of crowd grading. So I'm just going to give you a grade. Everybody's going to get the same grade from me based on the presentation. Remember, you're all working in the group. Everybody gets a vote on everybody else's grade. So if you're not working, I think your group is going to know how much you've actually inputted into the presentation itself. And you can present this any way you want. What I'm going to do right now is give you kind of a basic outline of how I want these scientific presentations. And I'll say right now, not all scientific, this is just kind of a guideline, best practices kind of thing. But I've seen talks that have, that don't even come close to following this format that have been awesome. You know, use this as your guide, but, use your own head too. If you think something would be good to throw in, go ahead. Like I said, this is kind of practice. Our next one, we're really going to use this scientific talks. And then when I bring you over to the college, when we start analyzing real data sets and having to present this to other scientists, this will become key. And this is kind of how I want you to form these talks. Okay, so your first slide, obviously, you want to basically give a title. What are you talking about? This needs to be very easy to read. And I remember last year when I was doing the presentations, some people had like black backgrounds and like dark lettering, and it was very difficult to see. If your audience can't see it, then it's not even, I don't care how pretty it looks on your computer screen, but if they can't read it, while you present it, then you have a problem. Okay. I'm getting feedback, sorry. I feel like Jimi Hendrix here. Okay. So remember, climate talk, you want to say who you are, if it's a group, the date, and maybe, where are you presenting this information. That way you can always go back and find it, and you'll know exactly which presentation you gave where. Okay? Second slide should just kind of be an introduction. A little background on what your study involved. What are you presenting on? Give some background. If I was talking about lung cancer, I was going to present some data on lung cancer. This first slide might be, hey, lung cancer is a horrible disease. It kills more people than World War II and World War I combined, blah, blah, blah. We don't have a, therapy for lung cancer. So in this project, what's the problem? Why did we even decide to look at temperature? So, a little background here. Okay, your second slide is basically going to lay out the outline of what you did. And this can be kind of general here. So in our instances, and you have to connect it to the background as well, right? You just gave this nice talk. You just kind of laid the groundwork. Now you have to come from there and say, okay, climate change is a huge problem. We decided to see this affect ourselves. And to do this, we did this. Give details. What are the cities we looked at? What kinds of temperature data? Did we use all years, 10-year intervals? Kind of go briefly into this. What kind of temperatures? We did the minimum and maximum temperatures. Okay, that you kind of lay the groundwork with this slide, and then get into the details here. Where did you get the information? What websites? Give the actual website where you got the information. Where were the numbers? What were the numbers, that you used? Min and max. How did you analyze the data? So you need to tell the viewer of this presentation that, hey, we used Excel to analyze this data. Okay, you always have to give programs that you use, because if somebody wants to validate your stuff, they're going to want to use the same software that you used, if possible. How did you analyze the data? Again, explain, linear regression. What did we use that for? What does slope mean? What does the y-intercept mean? Explain some of the details. Flow charts, and I was going to stick an example in here. Flow charts work very well for this purpose. You just have, we started here, we did this, and then ended up with this. You really want, you don't want to start your talk without them knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it. You want to lay the groundwork. You basically want to get them involved and say, this is what we did, so they don't have to think back and go, now how did he analyze that data? What is he presenting here? Lay the groundwork. You give yourself a good base, you're going to get a good house. And that's kind of what these talks are, is basically you're building a house for your facts to live in. And I like my houses pretty. Okay, so once you've laid out your study, hey, this is what we did. Okay, now you present the data. Now here are your data slides. These are your results. And this is the meat of the presentation. This is, this is the peanut butter and jelly of your presentation. You really want them, you want to present the data and explain it to them in a way that they know what you did and they can see the value in what you did. Explain process and results. And sometimes it's easiest to go like just from the beginning of your study to the end. Hey, we started doing this, then we did this, then we did this, and finally we did this. Or you can even go backwards, or you can go very specific. We started on a city, these individual cities. We took every group's cities and put that information together to look at what's going on in all these cities. And then we took some, and I'm going to show you, then we took some NASA data and we looked at the entire Earth. You can see how I did that, right? Specific to more general, bigger. You start, or you can go from big top to very specific. Hey, this is what the planet's doing. This is what NASA shows us. Here's now let's look at the individual cities. You can go either way on that. Just make sure it makes sense for somebody who's watching and that it's an enjoyable story to hear. If you're just throwing facts up there without any context, it's boring. It'd be like going to a math lecture and just having a bunch of equations on the board, but no discussion. It's like if I would have told you about the t-test without talking about the beer, it wouldn't have been, it wouldn't stick as well, right? You all remember the t-test, right? Right. And what was the beer? What was it? I think pre-med's out of it. What was the beer? What was the brewery that wanted the t-test done? Guinness, yeah. See, it sticks. That's what you do. Is if you're going to present facts, put some little stickies on it that make people remember. I don't know about statistics, but beer. Yeah, I remember beer, and yeah, the t-test. Yeah, I remember that. Okay, so here, you might start with a first slide. This is just a regression for one city for the summer over this time point. Okay, then you're going to continue. Your results are going to take a little while. What you want to do is you want to throw the results out, give it context, and then just keep building with them. Okay, so we started here. We just looked at the summer. We looked at the curves of each individual summer. You could see that some were higher and lower. And then you're going to have to tell what we did on this graph, right? We took the average temps. This is standard deviation. Explain some of these values here. What does this slope mean? What does this mean as far as what you think is going on in Miami with time? Okay. Now, and this is why I'm going to have you guys work as a group. I want you to take all of the information that you collected for all the groups, 3 cities, and then I want you to take my information that I collected from Miami, and I want you to put it together in a slide or a couple slides talking about what's going on, in all these cities we looked at in the U.S. Okay? Everybody get that? So combine the data together. And again, the data that you need to download will be on our Google Plus site. It should be there right now. Did everybody get a message that it was up there? Okay, cool. So is Patrick's guest talk. If you want to check that again, go for it. I'm going to use it against him, actually. It's like, your industry doesn't seem the same way. Okay, it can be more than one slide. Again, if you're going to show all the information on one table, if you show the min and max right? On the same table, it might look a little weird because you're going to get a lot of white space probably. Maybe you show just the max temperatures for all 4 regions together, then the mins. And then what you might want to say is, which one do you think is changing the most based on the data that you measured? Okay? Then, since Patrick was so nice, he downloaded this NASA climate data. I want to thank him. What I want you to do is, so again, you're going to combine these areas. Now I want you to make a slide that basically says what's going on in the world, right? We went from cities to the U.S. to now the world. So basically what I want you to do is download this data. I've given you the skills. You all are data warriors by this point. You can take this data, analyze it any way you like. Just figure out a way to display it that kind of summarizes at least parts of that Excel spreadsheet. And after this talk, I'm going to go over what actual data is in there. Okay? Then your final slide, after you've shoved all this information down their throats, what you want to do is you want them to remember it. So you want to summarize in a few sentences what you discovered. Hey, we think the temperature is rising in the U.S. based on this, right? When looking at the world, we saw this. And then make kind of what's your takeaway message from that? The planet's burning up. What does this mean for the future? And then you can talk about, do you have any plans to take this study farther? Were you going to look at any other cities, take this? We're going on to another section, so you don't really have to think about this. But for most talks, scientific talks, it's pretty good to do. And and explain long-term impacts of what you found. This is your closing. This is your big joke at the very end. This is where you get the biggest applause, the biggest laughs. You want to give them something to take home with them that they're going to remember. Something that utilizes all this information that you just gave them. And then your final slide is acknowledgements. Say who helped you, right? Big data course. I had a lot of help here, and this is just how we give these scientific talks. Faculty that helped me, put some of this together, blah, blah, blah. So that is the basic outline for a science talk. And we're going to be going over this more and more. We're going to present a lot. So, we're going to get into this, but I wanted to give you the basic framework so you would have an idea of what to do with this for this particular project. Okay, so we're going to stop there.